Oh, what is all this mess? Well, as part of when I was over at my dad and we were dealing with the Buick and stuff like that, there is a fuse in the Buick that is blown that allegedly is for the cigarette lighter, but may also control these back little opera lights as you see them here. See, what happened was one day I was replacing the bulb on this side because it was burned out. And stupid me, I did not even realize that, I had just some spare bulbs laying around, and I had one that looked like it was going to fit. It was the right base and everything, or so I thought. Well, it turns out this uses a bi-pin base. It's 2 solder blobs on the bottom of the base, and I had one with 1 solder blob on the bottom, and that shorted something. And as a consequence, the 2 opera lights, the trunk light, and the license plate light don't work. When I got the car, the cigarette lighter never worked, and that is the only fuse I found that was blown. I'm hoping they didn't use any kind of what they call a fusible link or anything like that, because God only knows where that would be. So hopefully that would fix it. The problem was my dad had a whole collection of glass fuses, but not one in the particular size. We had the right amperage, but not the right size. And he said, "Don't you have fuses?" I said, "Well, I have the old school blade style ones that they used to use in the 70s and 80s, as opposed to the glass fuses they used in these." And I thought of rigging up a jumper wire with that because I wouldn't want to get a glass fuse, put it in, and have it blow it. You know, I got a bag full of those blade fuses, and I could blow a few of those without causing any problem. So he says, "Don't you have some fuses?" I said, "Yeah, they're in your garage." Well, that started an archaeological dig. Found a shit ton of stuff from my old Chevy. That stuff I forgot about for 20 plus years. Just had no clue. A lot of the stuff I remember, some I don't. This beige looking thing was not part of the car stuff. It was in his garage and he threw it in with a lot of other stuff there. So I do want to show you some of the cool stuff that I had on the old Chevy. Some are cool, some are not, but I'll show you what I got here. We have the Harbor Freight jump pack, just so I don't blow up a car or anything like that. Rather than use a power supply, this is convenient. So it's here. First thing I had was this flashlight. Unfortunately, this has died due to the sands of time, but it plugged in the cigarette lighter, it would charge up, has an incandescent bulb, yet they used an LED to show you it was charging, and you would slide this thing up to turn the light on and down for off. It has cracked over the years somehow. I don't remember if it was like that in the car. I don't think so. Maybe it did crack for whatever reason and I got a replacement and then that died, or I don't remember. But anyway, this doesn't even charge anymore. If I go and plug it in, the LED doesn't even come on. So this is totally dead. It just uses a flashlight bulb, which was replaceable, just like that. See? And you can kind of see in there some sort of battery, but it doesn't even charge anymore, so this one's junk. It was this trouble light, real lightweight piece of crap. It says high beam, made in Hong Kong, and it does have a cord with a cigarette lighter plug. The bulb somehow is blackened over the years. It does still light, but it's not very useful unless I got a new bulb. But I'll plug it in and it lights up. Again, it doesn't really provide much light because that bulb is masking its effects, but it worked for what it was. You can kind of see light there, but I don't think it's really usable anymore. I found this one. It's sort of handheld. This also sort of has a blackened bulb. Interesting. But it has a magnet on the back, so it'll stick to the underside of the hood. And it also folds out like that. And then it'll snap back when it's done. So if we go and plug that in, that is certainly a lot brighter, as you can tell. Didn't even know I had this one. This one just totally evaded everything in my memory banks whatsoever. Most of the stuff I remembered. I definitely remembered this one but that totally no clue that it even existed. And now that I see it, I say, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember it popped open, but it just went into a box or something and into oblivion. Other thing I found that I had no clue about was this cigarette lighter plug. I don't know if I rigged this myself or what, but look at the fucking cable on this thing. Look how thick those wires are. You never see that today, ever. So anyway, that's here and it works. I just very hastily stripped that and put a nick in the wire, but it doesn't matter. I'm not using it permanently. Bring us to this siren. I don't know where this came from. If I had to guess, this was on my grandfather's house or something. The case is all aluminum, not plastic. And it runs on 6 to 12 volts. As you can see right there, and it says contact capacity 12 volts DC. I don't know if it's 8.3 or just 0.3 amps. I don't know what that's actually for. I don't know if it's like for supervision or anything like that, but let me get it hooked up. Okay, it's rigged. So that's what it does. I just can't get a good contact on it, but it does work. Tropical neon, 12 volts DC, 0.6 amps. Output 1200 volts AC, 25 milliamps. That's a transformer that converts 12 volts DC to AC to run the neon license plate light. Remember these? These were popular years ago. There used to be a sticker that was on here that peeled off, disappeared, disintegrated, I don't know. It is wired, but you'll see it's not on, and there's good reason for that. I'll get to that in a second. These are the AC wires. They're a real thick insulation, and they're aluminum wires for what it's worth. And the reason this is not on is because of this switch. Now, why is there a switch on this? Well, sometimes when I'd go to work or school or whatever it was in the morning, it was still dark out and I would have to put the lights on. And to avoid being pulled over by the cops for having something that's illegal, I would turn it off. And this was mounted in the bumper pointing down, so there was this little red thing sticking down. Only I knew where it was, otherwise you wouldn't know it's there. And that would toggle it on and off. The idea was it was to be used sort of on weekends, which is sort of counterintuitive because chances are the cops would be more out looking for people then. But anyway, that was the deal. Without further ado, here it is. If I can flip the switch. It's like a turquoise blue. You can actually see the neon gas in the tube, and I guess there's some phosphorescent coating or something like that on it, but it still lights up. This was put into service. The camera's making it look more green than anything else. This was put into service back in 1998, maybe, and I actually have its counterpart, the very same exact plate, license plate frame, light up, in pink, brand new in the box. I was gonna give that to my sister or the wife, but she had a purple one, and that one is lost. I don't know whatever happened to that. I haven't seen that in God knows how long, if it even still worked. The purple one she had did not have a separate transformer. But anyway, that was the deal on the neon license plate frame. It looked fucking awesome. And if you go back in some of my Throwback Thursday videos, you will see this on the car lit up. This monstrosity is a brake light, like a third brake light. And I mounted it using Velcro. The sticky back on the Velcro would always peel off of it, so I ended up using a silicone rubber glue to glue that on, and then it stayed, and the Velcro actually held it very well over the years. This has 4 wires, black, blue, red, and yellow. I don't remember what they all do, but I think you had to wire it based on the type of car you had. Brake light like this has a separate turn signal with an orange bulb in it. And for this you would wire it differently than a brake light like this, which uses the brake light as a brake light and turn signal. So I think the red wire was if you had the newer type brake lights, which had a separate blinker in it. If you didn't, then you would use the other two or something, or whatever it was. I cannot remember exactly. I never had the booklet for this. This was my Uncle David's, and he's since passed away a number of years ago. There were brackets that went from the ears on here up to there, and it sort of stood up above it like this. And that way, I think you would like mount this with screws to the back lid of your car, you know, inside the back window or something. I didn't like that, so I just Velcroed this up in there and Velcroed the rest up because there was no other way. And that car didn't really have a nice trunk lid because it was a hatchback. And this here is an adjustment for slow or fast, and you would change it based on the rate of your turn signal flash, so that way it would work properly. Because what would happen is if you hooked it up with the red wire, both of them would go on and they flash. I'll show you. But what would happen is the one, if you have it on a car with the brake light as also being the turn signal, then the way it would flash, it would be very inconsistent and wouldn't work. So then you would wire it separately using the using the blue and the yellow wire, and that would hook to your left brake light and your right brake light, and that way it would flash properly, and you would adjust the speed of it to your turn signal so you got the best bang for your buck, if you will. And now I'm going to go ahead and plug it in, and that's what it did. I think this also made an appearance in a Throwback Thursday of my old car. And like I said, you could change the speed of it using that potentiometer there. This was like really high-end shit. I've never seen anything like this ever again. This was not the first one my Uncle David had. He had a separate one where the red thingamajobbers would plug in to it, and that one broke over the years or something. I think he gave it to me because it was kind of knackered or something. And he bought this one, and then when he stopped using it, or whatever it was, he gave it to me, and I used it in my old Chevy. Well, anyway, I can tell you for certain that this and this are going to make their way down to Club J somewhere. I also had these things called scanners, which I don't have to show you right now. They're in the house. I haven't dug them out. And they're little things about yay long. They had, I think, 7 LEDs. I had 4 red ones and 1 blue one. And it was sort of almost like the Knight Rider with the lights that went shoo, 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 shoo. And it had a little black button on it. You could select different patterns and stuff, but the first one where it just went back and forth was the best. I think it went, you know, like that out from the center or in from the outside. It went in one direction or the other. It went fast back and forth or the slow back and forth, which was the most awesome. And fortunately, that was the default. It actually did remember what setting you had it on. It was 3 wires to hook up, so it always had memory. Whatever. That was that. I had those in the old Chevy in the windows. The 2 rear quarter windows, 2 on the windshield, and 1 on the back of the mirror. And the one on the back of the mirror was blue. And those would only go on when I'd shut the key off. So it just looked cool, and it always had these LEDs going. So hopefully one day I'll get to actually hooking this up downstairs, and I'll show you the scanners and all the other cool crap. And like I said, there's tons more old Chevy stuff laying around I have to go through, things like that. Set of old fog lights, which were not on that car. Bunch of speakers in here. This black thing is actually the horn from it, the original horn that I took out, and ta-da! Air horns. And that's an Auga horn. And look what's here. An exact replica of the thing I had. This was, yeah, this was the one I had. The other one my dad probably just had in the garage. I knew mine had a switch on it, and I wasn't seeing a switch, and it was very confusing to me. And in here is, oh God, all sorts of bulbs and stuff. Yeah, you can see like orange bulbs. All the old school bulbs they used to use in the 80s. 4 bulbs. These were the, I put these in the dome light. There were blue ones and red ones. I usually went with the blue because I thought they were cooler. But the inside of the car was red, so I went with those. Ultimately, this one, the blue one here, the paint, the problem is that they're so cheap, the paint on it just burns off and that. So I'd have to replace them even though they didn't burn out. I had all sorts of other lights in the car. I went with all red all around because the interior was red. Here's the bag of fuses. See, I had a ton of them. Used to have these stone guards on the headlights on the car because they were awesome. I had them in black, actually. This was a chrome set I picked up. These rust after a while. My Uncle David had this on his 77 Monte Carlo, actually, and I thought it looked fucking awesome. My car used the same type headlights, and I actually found these and bought them. And that was that. I have the black ones somewhere. I used to have these. The curly antenna. See, like that? And it was just, they're all dirty in that. It was just like glued on. It came with some sort of glue. This was supposed to be a passive cell phone repeater. It had a thing that you would put on the inside of the car that had some sort of other antenna thingamajobber, and it would somehow transmit the signal from that, picked up from your cell phone, through the glass to this, and supposed to give you better reception. I didn't have a cell phone, nor was I ever planning on getting one. It was a hatchback, so it was at like this kind of angle, and I had these antennas sticking up. I put fucking 3 of them on the back of the car. So I had one on the left side, one in the middle, one on the right, and then a big CB whip antenna, plus of course the radio antenna that was in the front. This car was decked out with fucking all the crazy shit you could ever imagine. Collection of fuzzy dice. I had the white ones in my car. I think the wife had the pink ones in her old Cavalier back in the day. And I guess I gotta flip on the light. I also had these gold ones that are hanging, I just found. They're just sort of hanging up there now. Those hung from the hooks in the back where you would hang like something from the dry cleaners. I forget what you call the hook there. But those would hang from that. They'd always, when I go around turns and shit, they'd always bang on the fucking windows and shit. I had regular dice like you'd have at a crap stable or something like that, and they were just glued on the car, you know, in different places along the headliner. on the plastic trim around it. So it was like a dice theme, and I had dice valve caps, all kinds of shit. Anyway, thanks for taking the time to be with me in this blast from the past. Shit I used to have in my old Chevy. I'm not going to call this a part 1. There's probably going to be another part in the future. I don't know when, if ever, but anyway, thanks for taking the time out of your day to watch this and relive the memories that once were. Thanks for watching. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.